World War II is remembered for its battles, political maneuvers, and global upheaval. Yet behind the front lines, a quiet but monumental struggle was taking place in fields, gardens, and kitchens. Today, we explore how forgotten crops, often overlooked in modern history, became lifelines for nations under siege. Before we dive into this story, make sure you subscribe to After the Sirens and leave a comment on which wartime crop fascinates you most. This is your chance to join a community of serious history enthusiasts who want to uncover the hidden layers of the past. During World War II, food shortages were not merely an inconvenience. They threatened the survival of entire nations. Nations like the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and Germany faced severe supply chain disruptions, blockades, and the loss of farmland to military campaigns. Governments and civilians alike turned to crops that were hardy, low maintenance, and nutrient-dense. These were not glamorous crops. They were modest, resilient, and sometimes entirely unfamiliar to modern palates. Yet they became the unsung heroes of wartime nutrition. One of the most significant of these was the rutabaga. Often dismissed today as a bland root vegetable, rutabagas were a critical calorie source in northern Europe. Their ability to thrive in poor soil and cold climates allowed farmers to cultivate them in fields that could not support more traditional crops like wheat or potatoes. Families in Scandinavia and Britain relied heavily on boiled rutabagas or mashed preparations to survive winters with minimal rations. For survivalists today, understanding the resilience and nutritional value of the rutabaga can inform planting strategies for gardens intended for self-sufficiency or emergency food stores. Simple steps such as crop rotation and frost-hardening techniques used then can be applied to modern home gardening. Another remarkable plant was the sorghum, particularly in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. This drought-resistant grain was crucial during periods when wheat failed due to poor harvests. Sorghum's high caloric yield and versatility allowed it to be transformed into porridge, bread, and even fermented beverages. Civilians who could access these crops were more likely to endure harsh winters and food rationing. Modern historical gardeners can take lessons from this by diversifying their crops to include sorghum or similar hardy grains in their planting schedules, ensuring that a single failed harvest does not result in food scarcity. In North America during the same period, the promotion of victory gardens introduced the masses to crops like kohlrabi kale and Jerusalem artichokes, vegetables that are honestly largely forgotten in contemporary mainstream gardening. These crops thrived in small urban plots and even on rooftops, providing essential vitamins and calories when store-bought food was rationed. Civilians learned how to maximize yield from limited spaces, a lesson that still holds value for anyone today interested in urban or survivalist gardening. By planting nutrient-rich, overlooked crops in compact plots, modern gardeners can in fact replicate wartime efficiency and self-sufficiency. The importance of legumes cannot be overstated. Lentils, chickpeas, and field beans were vital protein sources when meat was scarce, or frankly prohibitively expensive. In countries under occupation, access to these crops could determine whether a family stayed nourished or suffered malnutrition. Today, growing these legumes not only enriches soil through nitrogen fixation, but also provides a reliable protein source for off-grid survival scenarios. Learning the wartime methods of storing dried legumes in airtight containers can be a practical skill with, modern-day applications. Perhaps the most surprising example comes from seaweed and wild greens. Coastal communities in Britain and Japan turned to what was considered trash food. Wild plants growing along the shore or in neglected fields. These greens provided critical micronutrients and prevented widespread vitamin deficiencies, demonstrating that survival sometimes depends on knowledge of native foraged plants. For enthusiasts today, Identifying edible wild greens and integrating them into a garden or emergency survival plan is a direct application of wartime ingenuity. Understanding these crops and their historical context is more than an academic exercise. It connects us to a world where resourcefulness could save millions of lives, where knowledge of soil, climate, and plant resilience meant the difference between starvation and survival. For survivalists, gardeners, and history buffs, exploring these forgotten crops provides practical skills and deep insights into how humans adapt under extreme pressure. By studying the crops that sustained entire nations during World War II, we learn strategies for resilience and foresight. Planting a mix of hardy roots, grains, legumes, and wild greens ensures that even in adverse conditions, nourishment is possible. Applying wartime methods such as intercropping, storage in root cellars, and crop rotation allows gardeners to optimize output while maintaining soil health. These lessons, passed down from a world in crisis, remind us that the tools for survival are often hidden in plain sight, within humble, overlooked plants that history nearly forgot. These crops were not just food, they were lifelines, strategic resources, and symbols of human ingenuity under duress. If this exploration of forgotten crops has expanded your understanding of World War II and provided practical insights for today, make sure to subscribe to After the Sirens. Leave a comment with your thoughts and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts. Understanding the past is not merely an intellectual exercise, it's a guide for resilience, resourcefulness, and survival.